right, guys, you have heard from the first candidate. We do have Itoro Akpan-Iquot is on the call. You can go ahead and put yourself on video. Also had Dennis. Dennis joined while you were on. So Itoro, let me just do a quick introduction of those who we have. Our chapter, the Research Triangle chapter, has actually what we call 23 active. That means those are 23 active members. But we also have the youth group, which consists of, we can make us like 40 members. We actually have a very vibrant youth core here in Research Triangle. And we have some old chapter people that don't come regularly. I call them inactive members, that if we added them, we would probably hit in the mid 50s. But those who are on the call today, we have, I believe, 9 members on the call together. So I'm going to go quick introduction for them. So we have a treasurer on, Mr. James Udon. His wife is also on, Ukeme Ndon. We have Eugene. You know Eugene very well. We have Pastor Afia, Anyeti Afia. He's also on. We have Dennis. You know, Dennis is from your original. He originally came to us through the Atlanta chapter. We have Brian Iyan, who's our secretary, and then we have Otobon. Otobon is also one of our young folks here in Research Triangle. And then we also have, my wife is actually here, but she's kind of hiding. So there's 9 people from our chapter on the call. So what we're going to do is, just like I had indicated, we'll give you 5 minutes to lay out the vision of what you have for the organization. And then we'll go into questions. We'll start off the questions the same way we did last time. Our treasurer will start off asking questions, and then later on the secretary will ask. And then if there's any time allotted, I may ask or I may not ask. So let me give you the floor to go and introduce yourself. And you're welcome. Welcome to the virtual town hall meeting.
Thank you very much. Akwa Ibom is on.
Yeah.
Akwa Ibom is on.
Yeah.
No,
you now.
Yo.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for the opportunity. Thanks to all of you on the call. I hope you're doing everything you can to be safe. And if you're a frontline worker, thanks for your service. I'm here this afternoon calling to seek your vote as your next national president. And I'm convinced that by the time I'm done with my presentation on any questions that you may have, that I would have convinced you of the fact that of the 3 candidates running, that I am the best of the bunch. I've been active in AKISAN affairs, both locally and nationally, going back at least 10 years. And in everything I do, I like to leave long-lasting positive legacies. So whether that's in Atlanta, where among others, I helped to create our mailing list and phone bank of 350 email addresses and phone numbers respectively, or as president, where I helped to raise $36,000 in my first year that went to the renovation of our Akwa Ibom House project that helps to generate at least $3,000 a month currently, of course, pandemic period aside. I also talked to as many members as possible to convince them of the need to join our life insurance program. And from 15 members when I started, we ended up with about 60 people, which is what we have currently. On the national stage, well, let me back up, sorry. So another thing that I did was, in order to help to encourage the youth, I helped to establish a July 4th picnic and end of year party, which are traditions that are also ongoing. At the national level, I've been your webmaster going back at least 10 years. I've been on convention planning committees going back to at least 2011, last year excluded. And perhaps most importantly, I was the coordinator of the national convention in my hometown of Atlanta, where among others, we raised at least $160,000 in net profits. We got money back from the hotel after a long time. I also installed a payment system on the website, which helped us to generate at least $35,000 in online registration alone. So why am I running? Because currently and over the years, there's been a lack of trust and unity in the association. And based on my experiences in Atlanta, I want to help bring that back. I also have some unique ideas with respect to how our projects are being run. Of course, we have our scholarships and our medical missions. I want to make sure that we streamline those, but I also want to introduce being a web developer an IT camp, where for, as I'm talking to a guy in New York right now, and for as little as $500 per person, you go through a 6-month program, a programming course, and you come out making at least 100,000 naira per month. So we're not just giving people fish there, we're teaching them how to fish. I also want us to revisit our constitution to give council more oversight, especially in the area of finances and discipline. I want to make sure that our youth have a clearly defined role within our constitution. And I define youth as people between the ages of 18 and 35. Let's face it, many of them are respected professionals in the different fields, and they deserve to have a voice. So at the very least, I want to make sure that they have at least 1 vote, whether it's in presidential elections or in council. So they shouldn't just come there mostly at their own expense, sitting down there for hours, maybe speaking for 5 minutes, and that's it. They deserve to have a say in the running of this organization. I also want to help digitize as much as possible so that, for example, if you come to conventions, what happens now is, for the most part, you register, you leave for that convention. By the time you come back, we start from scratch, and that is not right. Why am I better than the other candidates? For one, I have the most experience, and I challenge you to get our manifestos, lay them out side by side, and you will see who has the most experience and the most accomplishments for this association over the duration of our memberships. I also have the most unique ideas with respect to projects, as I mentioned earlier. What do you get from me as your president? One, you'll get someone who will speak the truth no matter what.
No matter. Okay, Itoro, you're running out of your introduction time, so you can use.
So I'll just wrap up. So what is in it for your chapter? A chance to rewrite history and to make sure that AKISAN is set on the right path. So thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions.
Well, thank you for the introduction. At this point, I will pass the baton to our treasurer, Mr. Ndon, and he will start out with asking questions that encourage more dialogue.
Itoro, my name is James. My first question to you is related to this pandemic situation that we are having. I know that it has disrupted normal functions in life and around the world. At some stage, as I mentioned earlier, I did question, why do we really have to have this election? Why can't we postpone this election until when things normalizes? But that is not the question. Can you explain, if you are elected, what you will do differently that this current administration is not doing? Because there will be a restriction around in the next few months. What will you do?
Thanks for that question. So interestingly, about 2 days ago, someone called me and asked me that very question. In particular, he said, most likely there might not be a convention next year. How am I going to raise money for us to do our projects? And I reminded him that we don't have to wait till convention time to actually raise funds. There are so many ways outside of the box to do that. For example, in Atlanta right now, our fundraiser was in June. We encourage people to donate money to us through Zelle and Cash App. We're not there in person. Also, I'm talking to a lot of people who say that once I become elected, they'll be willing not only to contribute, but I mentioned the IT camp earlier. They're willing to sponsor at least 2 people apiece. So there's so many ways to generate money. We don't have to wait for convention. And I hate to put it this way, but in a way, it's good that we're having this moment in history because it's going to force us to think in ways we've never thought before. Thank you.
Thank you. So if you were to be the president, would you conduct this election during this pandemic area?
Yes, I would, because one, our legal counsel sent out a circular in which she said that we're established in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. currently allows for virtual meetings. Also, in my opinion, the work of the association should not come to a standstill because of what is happening now. As I mentioned earlier, we can do so many things even without visiting home to do anything or to even raise money traditionally. So again, let's use this opportunity to redefine the way we do things. Thank you.
Humanitarian area. Have you ever embarked on any humanitarian trip, like a medical mission to Nigeria? And what are you in the background that prepares you to lead these organizations?
So personally, well, for the association, no. On a personal level, I've done things in my own way. I visit home quite a lot. I help family members and friends. But even within context of the association, I do follow through with what is happening. So even if I may not have that personal experience, I will surround myself with experts in the different fields to make sure that things run smoothly.
If I still have one more, one last question to you will be, I know this is not my area, but do you know what percentage is AKISAN National generates money from Akwa Ibom government / Akwa Ibom politicians?
Well, I wouldn't know percentage exactly, but let's go back, I don't know, 5-10 years. Started off with a donation. That's when I became active of $100,000. Then it went to $50,000. And I believe as of the last convention, they donated $30,000. In Atlanta, they did not actually donate a dime, but we actually made $160,000 in net profit. So what I would like to see is a situation where whether they donate money or not, in other words, if they don't donate, the association does not fail because they didn't do so. We need to be able to generate money on our own and then perhaps ask them to partner in that area.
My last question would be, do you have any concern about unannounced donations that been given by the federal or by the state government and other politicians? If you're elected, what will you do about that?
So I guess that goes to transparency. Where there's no transparency, there is no trust. So even in a situation where let's say someone donates money and wants it to be anonymous, I would be honest with them and say that it better be open. Otherwise, I don't mind turning it down, because again, where there's no transparency, there is no trust.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your questions. Let me go on to our secretary. Secretary will ask questions pretty much probably also around finances as well. And then we'll also have people chime in if they have any clarification questions or follow-up. So Brian, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Itoro, for spending this few minutes with us today. I have a question around finances, actually. It is a recurring theme that AKISAN has a very long history of financial improprieties, going back many administrations and years. First of all, do you share this view? If not, why so?
I do share this view. As I say, perception is reality. So whether it's true or not, again, it's about perception. And we had the same issues in Atlanta when I was president. This is how I solved that. One, I was totally, well, let me go back to the Akwa House renovation project. Many presidents had come in prior to that saying that if elected that they would do the project, but they never did. When I did it, I posted pictures on a weekly basis, posted videos. I encouraged people to go and visit the Akwa House to see things for themselves. And then at the end of the project, I had a comprehensive report. I didn't just say, for example, I spent $1,000 on nails. I was so detailed that in fact they asked me not to be so detailed. So what do I mean by that? I would say that maybe a nail cost $10. I bought 10 nails for $100. I also backed it up with the necessary receipts and invoices. Also, another thing I've noticed, and I could be wrong, but I've noticed this too, that typically I know the Constitution says we have 2 council meetings and a business meeting. And of course, we generate at the national level financial reports along those lines. Yet as chapter presidents, we do financial reports, at least in Atlanta, we do them every month. So even though it is not required, that's something that I want to do. That way people see where their money is going on a monthly basis. I think, and again, I could be wrong, but based on my experience, when you allow things to fester for a long time, people have questions. And in my opinion, the best way to, I guess, seal off any trickle of doubt is to flood it with naked truth. So the more truthful you are, the more transparent you are, that builds back the trust and people will know where their money is going. Thank you.
Okay, I think you kind of like alluded to the second question that I had, which was supposed to be what steps you would champion to redirect this organization to sound financial footing. I believe you already answered that question, but I'll move on to the next question now.
Mm-hmm.
Checks on the presidential powers and oversight. At the moment, there is not really a way to provide real-time oversight on presidential activities. This leads to chasing after the horses after they have left the barn. What is your proposal to fix this situation, especially where it concerns AKISAN finances?
Yes, thanks for that question. So as I mentioned in my introduction, we need to revisit our constitution. As you said, right now it appears the president has more power than the other branches of government. Perhaps at the time the constitution was written, there was a reason for that. But I believe that we should run the same way the US government runs. All branches, the board, the exco, and the council should be co-equals. Council is the decision-making body of the association. Right now, there is a little clause in there about how to remove a president for, indiscipline, if you will, but there's no process. So we need to revisit our constitution, give council more oversight in that area, in the area of finances and as well as discipline. Unfortunately, if we were to do a constitutional amendment, it takes place a year after it's approved. I would like for these things to happen sooner, but unfortunately it will not. However, I will do things based on my experience as president, even if it's not required, to help set that tone. Thank you.
Thank you. My last question for you today. We know that it's always a common thing in politics, in organizations, for the new administration to come in and change everything, right, that the prior administration have done, including projects. Are there any prior projects that you plan to continue from prior administration? If not, why not?
Yes, that's a very good question. So at work, whenever we do projects, and let's say we have a change in leadership, before we continue what the other person did, we have a lessons learned session, and we look at what went wrong and what went right. If the cons outweigh the pros, we discontinue, or we try to fine tune as much as possible, or if the pros are more, then we continue the project. So whatever this current administration or administrations prior to that have done, I will intend to continue. However, we need to look at how those projects are being run. I'm going to dedicate a committee of, I guess, experts, if you will, to look at those projects. They will give the recommendation because, again, as president, even though I may have all the power right now, I want it to go back to the council. If they recommend that we continue our project, we continue that. If not, we don't. But I'm not going to be autocratic about it. I will be democratic. Thank you.
As a follow-up, tell us what future project you have in mind at the cost and who will be the beneficiaries.
Okay, so as I mentioned in my introduction, I'm a web developer. What I'm really looking at now is an IT, what I call an IT camp. I've been talking to with a guy in Uyo as we speak. He's being sponsored by Google. He runs a 6-month program twice a year for the equivalent of, well, that was when it was about $3.75 to $1, but about $500 per person. You go through a 6-month course in programming. He has contracts with many American companies and does offshore work for them. So one thing I noticed in our projects, again, not necessarily bad as we go, like medical missions, we give our services and we leave. Not necessarily any follow-up. Also in the area of scholarships, to the best of my knowledge, and I could be wrong again, but we give people scholarships, let's say in 2010, we don't follow up with them, let's say 4 years later to see where that money has gone or what they're doing currently. So in my own case, everything will have follow through. After 6 months, you see where they are. And as the guy told me, and in due time, I will let everyone speak to the person, they will come out making an average of 100,000 Naira per month. So again, we're not only helping, but we're empowering them also in the process. So that's the main project that I want to pursue during my time as president.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Mr.
Secretary. Let me turn to the floor in case anybody have any follow-up questions for Mr. Itoro Akpan-Iquot. Anyone have a questions for Mr. Itoro?
Yes, I do.
Go right ahead.
Itoro Eugene right here. I've had opportunity to work with you. As you well know, I'm the one that recommended you to become the webmaster, and you've been that. And you do also know that AKISAN did not have a website until 2003 when I became the DC chapter president convention that I registered the AKISAN website. You know how passionate I am with the website. Could you tell us, I've heard you say things in the IT, why we've talked about the website was really outdated. It took so long until last year that we were able to finally change it, and it did not come from you, it came from outside. And then two, while we've been talking about having the website be self-sustained, on the record, you're being paid minimal amount to be a webmaster. It's not done for free. So could you tell us why, with the IT background and everything, you were not looking for ways to bring in funding to run the website? The twice that it was funded was my initiative to get people to fund it for a year or two. So can you just bring us to the speed when you had the opportunity in 12 years with the web AKISAN website? What did you really do that revolutionized the website, and why you failed, if you did?
Yeah, so thanks for that question, and thanks to people like you, you exposed me to this association. So I guess seeking for outside sourcing for the website is not my mandate. If you go back to when Obama was president, I believe I still have the contract. I was to build and maintain the website. Based on where I work, we recommend that clients update their websites at least once every 5 years. And around those times, I go to each president and tell them that we need to update the website. As you know, the website was done in 2009. It was not updated until 2019. But in between, I have been telling presidents to do that. You also mentioned pay. As we speak, I've not been paid in 4 years, but I still do the work of the website. Why? Because I love this association so much. I know the association will pay me at some point. I don't make it a big deal, but they owe me. And I bet you if someone were to owe an American company for even more than 2 months, they would have continued the service, disconnected the website, and we would have been blind in that area. So I wouldn't see it as a failure because I've done all I can within my own powers. I don't want to usurp the authorities of a president, but I do what I can. And I believe I've done what I can. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question and answer. Anyone else on the floor that have questions for Itoro? I have a couple of areas that I like to ask questions, but I like to get the floor to anyone who wants to ask that one before I ask.
Okay, Mr. Itoro.
Yes, sir.
This is Anieti here. There is one common concern, and it's very serious to me about AKISAN National. The concern that I have about the national, you know, when you campaign, when you guys campaign, you come in and talk to us and talk to us and talk to us. We know, you know, we are trying to learn politics in America, but it's good. My concern is very, very important. It's about accountability. Let me start from, I'm not involved in the national level, but I gather a little information. Starting from Emmanuel Ison, when he was a president, there was no accountability at the end of his tenure. John Eaton in Philadelphia, no accountability. And there was all kinds of rumor, or he went on, he traveled to Nigeria, he took some certain things to Nigeria, and he came back, there was no accountability, he went about with some kind of money from AKISAN, there was no account after the convention. And that is a part. Look at this guy, Etuka. And look at this guy, this guy from Calabar, that you guys adopted to be a national president in Akwa Ibom. If there was nobody in Akwa Ibom, that guy, I don't know, I think Ita, something they call him Ita. I mean, about 4 of them, what are we doing? I know you speak very eloquent, it's very nice. So tell me in your own language, I'm referring that to you. What are you going to do about accountability? You are tired. I brought my children there with all my family and contributed the money, and after that, all of you guys will put it in your pocket and go away. We know, we understand there is a business, there is a circle. People understand who they put the money.
Hey, Pastor, let him answer now. Pastor, let him answer the question.
I think you face to face.
Let him answer the question. We have Itoro face to face. Okay, Itoro, you have a question to answer now. What are you going to do about accountability?
So thank you very much. As we say, perception is reality. All I can say, well, I guess a few things. One, I've been in a position where I hire people. I've also been hired myself. The first thing we do is we look at your resume. In our own case, you look at our manifestos. We don't just hire people because the name sounds right or is there time to run or because I've known this person for 30 years. We hire based on what is on the paper. Does that mean that person will be 100% perfect? No, but at least it gives you a kind of looking glass to at least gauge where that person is coming from. I've asked you, I've challenged you, look at my manifesto, look at those of my other opponents, see who has done the most for this association locally and nationally. Pick up the phone, call people in Atlanta, call people around the nation, and they will tell you what I have done. During my tenure as president, no one has ever complained when it comes to how my money. There was a lady who called me about 2 weeks ago, I totally forgot. During the convention in Atlanta, I never met her in my life. The convention line was kind of long, so while I was taking their information, she gave me her credit card. She told me to swipe it at my own convenience and give it back to her. I had that card from Thursday. I did not return it till the following Sunday. And she told me she never met an Akwa Ibom person like that in her life. I want to believe that if I were a bad person, she said she was monitoring the account balance for the whole time and nothing was happening. That's just the person I am. That's how I was raised. So go back to who are the people running? Do they have the actual qualifications? Not based on sentiment, but based on professionalism. Also, look at what they've done in the past. Have they ran a chapter, or have they been in any administrative role within their chapters, right? You can't just come from nowhere and decide to be president. You have to prove to us. And I want to leave it, if we start with those basic building blocks, maybe not in the next 2 years or another 4, but eventually we will get there. We have good people to lead this association. We just don't pick them. And many of them are not even wanting to participate for the very reasons that you've described. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pastor, thank you for the question. I know time will tell to answer that one. It's always one of those things that you wait to see the evidence before you say, okay. So let me ask a couple of questions and you could probably wrap up with, we only have 5 more minutes. The first question that I have has to do with youth involvement. Almost every administration comes always pitch how they're going to get youth engaged. It's almost pitched almost like transparency and accountability. They always pitch that. However, at the end of the day, youth are really not that engaged in any affairs of this. I know you mentioned the fact that you're going to give them a seat, you're going to give them a vote. So I may want you to talk a little bit more about that. And then the other thing I want you to address, I want to ask my 2 questions at once, so take them. One is going to be youth. The other one is going to be a lot of members within this chapter, even myself, question why we're even involved in the national. We've been part of the national organization for over 20 years. We pay our dues every year. If we add up all the money, we spend over $10,000, but at the end of the day, there is no benefit. It's a one-way street. We give, there's nothing coming back. So I'd like for you to address, for a chapter like us, what is it? Why should we continue this trend where it looks like it's a one-way relationship where we give and nothing comes back? So what is in it for us? Why should we stay? So those are the two areas, youth, and why should AKISAN Research Triangle continue to be part of the national, being a one-way street gift ticket to the national?
Okay, thanks for those two questions. In the area of youth, I'm going to start off with, at least at the national level, back to 2017 National Convention. The DJs, the videographer, the photographer, they were all youth. Now, at that time, I remember a lot of people were questioning that my decision-making. They said, quote unquote, they've never handled a big event. I said, let them make those mistakes. We're going to teach them. And because of that event, many of them are even playing at even bigger places. My belief is that it's kind of like a catch-22. You say they don't have experience, but if you don't give them the opportunity to get that experience, then how do they get that said experience? So we need to trust them with those little things. Now, fast forward to this year. I spoke to the youth board about 2-3 months ago. In addition to telling them that they deserve a seat at the table with respect to votes, I also discovered that 2 of them, current Ms. AKISAN as well as the youth president, are event planners by profession. And I told them that when I become president, by God's grace, I am going to give them either the Friday event or the Saturday event to run. Do they have the experience? No, but that will give them the opportunity to have that experience. As I always say, the convention is a 4-day weekend where we have the opportunity to promote ourselves as Akwa Ibomites to the world. Because of that, I also hope to empower them in the process. Now, with respect to what is in it for your chapter?
Why do we continue? Why do we continue?
Why should you continue? Exactly. So I get that question a lot. We send money one way, we don't get anything in return. One thing I would like to do is, well, okay, I think Pastor Fia also mentioned this, that we come, we talk a good game before we get elected. Once we get elected, we're out the window, you don't see us again. I intend to follow with all the chapters. I intend to collaborate with chapters, with local chapters with respect to their projects. I don't believe you should just pay your dues and that's it. I want to set up a fund whereby, I mean, of course, it could be considered a token, but it's better than nothing, where if a chapter is having a project, we can support that in whatever way we can, whether it is money or cash or kind. So there are so many ways to help encourage that. It is unfortunate, yes, but again, it may not be able to be done in 2 years, but over time, we should be able to get that done. Also in the area of welfare, many people join this association because maybe they hope to get something in return. I intend to introduce the life insurance policy program across the board so that, you know, when people, well, I hate to put it, but when people die, they at least have something to fall back on. So it's not just something where we put in money, but we get something back in return. And hopefully through small gestures like this, and oh, by the way, during the convention in Atlanta, I was able to strike a deal with Marriott so that any local chapter or even the national has any event in every Marriott, they can get it at a discount. I also help secure a 10% discount with Delta Airlines. I want to increase that into areas like car rentals, kind of like the AARP. So in whatever way I can get individual members to benefit, I'm going to do that. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We are out of time. Did you have a question? Okay, my wife is asking who's going to fund the life insurance.
So the way it's done in Atlanta,
insurance is always based on paying into some premium. So
the way we do it in Atlanta is because it's a group life insurance program. So the company recognizes the association. We renew, well, we pay our premiums April and November. 3 months prior, we start to, I guess, do what I call an insurance drive. So everybody has to pay 3 months prior to the deadline. If you don't, so
individual pays into the policy, basically.
Yes, happens. And then we pay with one big check. Yes.
I got you. All right. Well, thank you so much. We are exactly at 6:35. I appreciate you joining. Is any closing 30 seconds? We give you 30 seconds for a closing remark.
Oh, definitely. So again, thanks for the opportunity to speak to you. I hope during the course of this discussion, I've said enough to convince you that I'm the best candidate. Reach me through any of the information above my head, my phone number, my website. As I said, everything boils down to experience and knowledge. We need to start electing people based on those. And over time, we're going to get better. Ask around, call people in Atlanta, call people nationwide. I guarantee your vote will not be wasted. Thank you very much, and God bless.
All right, thank you for joining us. We appreciate the dialogue. I hope it has been very informative for the members. So at this time, we're going to say bye-bye. So thanks for joining us.
Right, thank you. Bye, see you all.
All right, see you in there.